Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you. So today is 19th of April and let's get started with the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss entire analysis of Hindu newspaper. We are going to take all the relevant articles which are there in the today's newspaper for our examination. So let's get started. Now first, in every class, we start with the GS quotation, and idea of this particular quotation is to give you some substance that you can use in your answers as well as in essay. So today we are going to take quotation from Earl Warren. So Earl Warren says that in a civilized life, law floats in a sea of ethics. Law floats in a sea of ethics. Now, basically, guys, what do we mean by this particular word law? So, law simply means a set of do's and don'ts, a set of do's and don'ts which entail a penal element, Okay, you have to do certain things, you don't have to do certain things. For example, we have Prohibition of Child Labor Act 1986, which defines child labor. Okay, and child labor is not to be used, otherwise there will be punishment. Similarly, we have Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. It prescribes that male below the age of 21, male below the age of 21 and female below the age of 18 cannot be married. If such marriage is conducted, then that is punishable, whomsoever organizes that particular marriage. So what a law is? Law simply is a set of do's and don'ts which contain a penal element if not followed. Now when we talk about, guys, law float on a sea of ethics. Now what ethics are? Ethics are ethics are simply, you can say that ethics helps us to assess what is right or what is wrong. Fine fine Now when we talk about, guys, laws and ethics connection, understand this particular thing, that ethics are based on maximalist principles. Okay, ideally what should be done, but then there are some minimalist standards also, that at least you should not do this, now the law is based, basically law floats on the sea of ethics. If a society is ethical, if society believes in high morals, law will replicate that, even the law will be justified. Now you will find this particular thing, that when we talk about democracy, democracy is based on high ideals such as respecting the liberty, respecting justice, respecting freedom, equality. And in democracy, laws will be different, will depict these particular high principles. But if you go in a dictatorship, in dictatorship you find that authority, subordination, inequality. Okay, all these particular things prevail, and the laws also will depict those particular low standards that are there. So in a civilized life, law always will follow the ethical principles that have been established by the society in the past. So this is a kind of a brief idea. You can use it in GS paper number 4, ethics, integrity and aptitude. Now let's move on and let's discuss first article for today. So guys, the first article that we have here is this nuanced approach to the South China Sea, India's nuanced approach in the South China Sea. Now, this particular article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, international affairs, and India's interest in the neighborhood and extended neighborhood. Now, before going in this particular article, guys, let's take some basic background information that you need to have. Now, this article talks about South China Sea. South China Sea. So basically, guys, here if you focus here, this region. Okay. So basically, here if you focus, this particular region is South China Sea. South China Sea. Now, when we talk about South China Sea, what is China's position in this South China Sea? It is also called as South China Sea. Also, it is called as the West Philippines Sea. West Philippines Sea. Okay. Now, here, if you see this dotted line, it is referred to as 9 dash line. Okay, this particular dotted line, it is referred to as 9 dash line. And China claims that this entire region, this, yes, China claims that this entire region, it is the territory of, it is a maritime territory of China only, Now, if you see, we have other countries also here. For example, here we have Philippines. Okay, here we have Malaysia. Fine, Vietnam. We have Brunei. We have. They say that China is claiming entire South China Sea. What about our claims? What about our claims? They say that our exclusive economic zone is not being recognized by China. You are claiming the entire South China Sea. So therefore, there are territorial disputes between all these countries. Okay, Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam, they have the dispute with China. Now, here if you'll observe, we have certain islands also. Here we have certain islands, all certain maritime formations also. Let's understand about them also. So here we have the Paracel Island. Here we have Paracel Island. So little bit of north to south direction you should be knowing. So here we have Paracel Island. Here we have the Scarborough Shoal. Here we have Spratly Islands. Okay. Now they are also disputed. For example, Paracel Island, as we talk about it, it has been claimed by China. Sorry. Yes, it has been claimed by China. It has been claimed by Taiwan. Also, it has been claimed by Vietnam. Okay. Then you go a little bit south. Here we have the Scarborough Island. Now, Scarborough Island is again claimed by China. It is claimed by Taiwan. It is claimed by Philippines, and it is claimed by Vietnam. Then we have the Spratly Island here in the south. Here we have Spratly Island. Now, these Spratly Island are also disputed. Fine. Who claims the Spratly Island? Again, I'll use a thicker pen of a different color. Okay. So, Spratly Island, it is also claimed by China. Fine. Then it is claimed by Taiwan. Then it's claimed by Philippines. Then it's claimed by Brunei and Vietnam. Okay. So, we have a lot of disputes and lot of confrontations going on in South China Sea. But major confrontation that's there, it is China versus the rest. China versus the rest. And we have seen that throughout 2023 as well as since 2024 has begun, confrontation between Philippines and China, they have basically went to extreme. They have went to extreme. Now, when we talk about, guys, India's foreign policy, you might be knowing that India always uses one particular principle in their foreign policy, that is strategic autonomy. That is strategic autonomy. Now, what is this concept of strategic autonomy? India always maintains that we don't have any permanent friends. We don't have permanent friends. We don't have any permanent enemy. Okay, only thing that we have is permanent national interest. Only thing that we have is permanent national interest. Okay, and because of this permanent national interest that we have, India will maintain a transactional relation. India will maintain a transactional relation with the countries. Means that when India's national interest is being fulfilled, yes, we are your friends. But if you are not respecting our national interest, then we cannot be friends. Okay, or our the equation will not be very good. So transactional. Now understand this thing, that whenever you are writing an answer on IR, and let's say if India's foreign policy is concerned, use these particular terms, that is strategic autonomy, no friends, no permanent enemy, only permanent national interest, a transactional relation, transactional approach. Use these particular kind of keywords. So this is something that has always been there. And in the South China Sea also, in past, India has not maintained a very clear stand. Very clear stand. We say, now see, when it comes to South China Sea, we say that rule-based order need to be followed. Rule-based order needs to be followed. This is something that we have said. But outrightly, we have not called out any one particular nation or any particular country. But now this thing is changing. Now this particular thing is changing. So what happened? Recently, India's external affair minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, he released a joint statement during his visit to Philippines. And he said that we give a full support to Philippines in South China Sea. In South China Sea, we say that Philippines has their sovereign rights. Okay. And in this dispute between the China and Philippines and South China Sea, whose side we have taken? We have taken the side of Philippines. So if you see here, India has taken a little bit of a different approach. Now, this particular approach, guys, it is also needed. Why? Because India is projecting itself. India is projecting itself as a next superpower, So basically, on certain issues which are outrightly in violation of international norms, we have to have a clear stand. Also, understand this thing that India has said that China has to acknowledge the International Court of Justice ruling of 2016. In this International Court of Justice ruling of 2016, Philippines stake in South China Sea was recognized, and International Court of Justice referred to China that China has to give rights to Philippines in South China Sea. This is something that happened. Now, guys, when we talk about the International Court of Justice, it is under UN, and under International Court of Justice, cases against the state parties can be filed. There is also one more, that is International Criminal Court. International Criminal Court, in this, the cases against the individuals can be filed. So ICJ is for states, ICC is for individuals. Keep it in your mind. So this is something that has happened. Now, if you guys understand this thing, basically our policy with respect to this particular region, it has always been shaped by, yes. So as we talk about this entire region, okay, Southeast Asia, fine, Southeast Asia and South Asia. Now, when we talk about the Southeast Asia, when we talk about East Asia, fine, we have driven our policy through Act East, Now you see this particular thing that when we talk about the Act East, India has a special economic interest. India has special economic interest in East Asia. India has a strategic interest in East Asia. India wants to integrate Northeast with the economies of East Asia, so holistic development of Northeast can be carried. And also, as a part of Act East policy, fine, we also have to integrate with this particular region to enhance our energy security, And guys, when we talk about energy security, you understand this particular thing that there are certain oil fields in which India has claimed, or India has actually got certain drilling rights. For example, India's ONGC Videsh Limited, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, ONGC Videsh Limited, what it has got? It has got exploration rights in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. And India is exploring that how in other countries' exclusive economic zone also we can get the gas exploration rights. So for India's energy security also, this particular region is very much important. Fine. So again, economic integration, strategic integration, and energy integration for these areas, the area region is important. Now, when we talk about this particular region, the region of East Asia and Southeast Asia, India's cooperation has increased in the past few years. And it also is because of the fact that we are now. Now there are the confrontations that have emerged between India and China, particularly after the Galwan Valley incident of 2020. You have seen that there are multiple intrusions that have been carried by in China in the India's territory, and recently some of the Indian villages in Arunachal Pradesh also, they were renamed by the China. So because of this particular thing, India is now taking the position that is counter to the China. China has impacted India's national interest by intruding in the territory. Now India will support the countries, fine, who has questioned the China's territorial claims. So this is something that has happened. Moreover, guys, understand this thing that we are cooperating with these countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines in South China Sea, but also we are bringing them under the Indo-Pacific framework of India. This is something that has happened. Now, moving on, guys. When we talk about these particular countries, they happen to be the part of ASEAN also, that is the Association of Southeast Asian Nation. And when we talk about the ASEAN, so within the ASEAN, India has always promoted freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight, and China claiming virtually the entire South China Sea, it might be a threat to freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight. Okay, and with ASEAN, India has always been a meaningful partner. So therefore, now we are taking very clear stands, and such unambiguous positions that India is taking are of very critical importance for India now, because now India is projecting itself as a regional power, and then India will project itself as a superpower. So in the pursuit of regional power first, you have to take clear position on regional issues, clear position on regional issues. That is something that has happened here. Fine. So that is all about it. And now moving to next article. Sir, till what day we need to cover newspaper if we are appearing for prelims 2024? If you are appearing for prelims 2024, now you can leave the newspaper. Okay. A world in disarray, a concern about the future. Now, this particular article, guys, it is giving a kind of a snapshot. It is giving a kind of a snapshot, or you can say it is giving a kind of an overview on the international landscape. International landscape. Now, with respect to wars that is going on, this article is specifically oriented. Fine. So we are going to discuss this particular article under GS paper number 2 as well as under GS paper number 4. Ethics of war will say this particular article. Ethics of war will see this particular article. Now, before going in this particular article's detail, let's understand some basic things with respect to your ethics paper 4. Ethics paper 4. Now, guys, when we talk about war, fine, on war, there are the different viewpoints that have been there. There are the different viewpoints that have been there. Now, first is realist. First is realist viewpoint. Now, realist viewpoint say this particular thing that war is a type of a practical solution. War is a type of a practical solution in international confrontation. It has been provided by the realist that relation between two countries, it is based on many written and many unwritten contracts or agreements. But sometimes these written as well as unwritten contracts, agreements, they are violated. And because of this particular thing, what happened? Confrontation emerges, and this confrontation can be solved by fighting a war. Whosoever will win will take its course. So this is the realist viewpoint. Then there is a pacifist viewpoint. There is pacifist viewpoint. Now, pacifist viewpoint, basically, it is supported by the people such as, it is supported by the leaders such as Gandhi ji. Now, what the pacifist thinker says, they say this particular thing that the war is always wrong. War can never be justified. In fact, there is a very famous saying of Gandhiji. Gandhiji says, and if you want, you can note it down also in your notebook. Gandhiji says that what difference does it makes to hungry, poor, and dead, as whether the war was fought in the name of totalitarianism or in the holy name of democracy. So this quotation says that the person who have died, the person who are hungry, the person who are poor, fine, for them it doesn't matter that what is the reason for the war. For them, for them the crisis have actually increased. Okay, so the reason doesn't matters to these poor people, hungry people. So pacifists say that war is always wrong. Realist says that the war is a practical solution. Then when we talk about the war, there is just war theory. There is just war theory. Now, just war theory, you'll find it has, you find this application in Mahabharat. Just war theory, you'll find its application in Mahabharat. Mahabharat. Now, what just war theory says? Number one, first priority, war should be avoided. First priority, war should be avoided. Sometimes war becomes inevitable. Sometimes war becomes inevitable. Suppose there is an authoritarian leader who is committing a lot of atrocities on its own citizens, is a threat to the entire world peace. So in this situation, war has to be fought. But war then needs to be based on certain ethical principles. War needs to be based on certain ethical principles. Okay. Now, basically, there are three ethical principles that we have: just ad bellum, just ad bellum, just post bellum, just post bellum, sorry, just in bellum, just in bellum, and just post bellum, just post vellum. Okay, just add vellum. That is be just before the war. Now this principle says that the war, first of all, should not be fought just to satiate your ego. War should not be just fought to satiate your ego. Okay, there should be a kind of a reason to fight a war. Fine, and that reason should be justified. Just in war, now it talks about the justice in the war. Justice in the war, certain types of weapons cannot be used, civilian population cannot be attacked, just post bellum, justice after the war. So once war is finished, post-war treaty needs to be signed, needs to be ensured that it is being signed on certain just principle. Now guys, just one example. What was the reason for World War II? Reason for World War II was World War One. Reason for World War II was World War One. In World War One, what happened? Basically, Germany, they were imposed a lot of humiliating terms and condition, which led to a lot of frustration in Germany. And then Germans, they came and fought the World War II. So after the war, the way how you are signing the post-war treaty is also very much important. So we have these three principles with respect to war. So guys, please note down these things separately. They are not given in your article. Okay, so please note down them separately, and with your ethics GS paper number 4, this will be important with respect to your GS paper number 4, ethics of war. Ethics of war. Okay, now a minute, GS paper number 4, ethics of war. Now guys, moving back to the article. Okay, now today we see that the world is fighting actually world is facing multiple wars at the same time, and these wars are because of certain reckless, irresponsible leaders that are there. Number one, we find here that basically Ukrainian President Zelensky, then Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is there, then Russian President Putin. They are depicting a kind of an intense myopia. Myopia means a kind of a short sightedness. They have a kind of a short sightedness. They are fighting the war but are not understanding that in longer term what repercussions this particular war will pose, how people are getting suffered in this particular war. Now it shows failure of multiple countries at multiple level. First of all, when we talk about the USA thought that what they will do, they will strengthen NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in the neighborhood of Russia. And by making NATO more and more stronger, what will happen? Basically, the order of post 1945 will be achieved. US will become an unchallenged power. Russia will virtually be dead if NATO will be strengthened. And for that particular thing, US showed a kind of a likelihood of getting Ukraine admitted to NATO. But then this particular thing was seen as an attack on national interest of Russia by the Putin, and war between Ukraine and Russia got started. Ukraine and Russia war got started. So understand this particular thing, that rather than weakening the Russia, what US did, US brought Russia and China together, and together a kind of a nexus has been formed. In fact, Mr. S. Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, also said this particular thing, that US is only responsible for making Russia and China closer. So this is something that has happened, and we say clearly US has failed here. US has failed here. Now, also understand this thing, that actually West has came out with the idea of the rule-based international order. Rule-based international order. Today, this rule-based international order is virtually dead post 2022. China, for example, does not respect the UN clause. China does not respect the maritime territories of Philippines and such countries. If you see, United Nations failed to stop the war. War is going on in Ukraine, Russia. War is going on between Israel, Hamas. Now Iran is also emerging. So basically, this rule-based order of the West has also has also failed. Now, point is that guys, actually 2023 was an year when there was a kind of a stalemate happened. Stalemate happened. Stalemate. Stalemate is a situation in war when none of the party is able to win. So a kind of a deadlock appears in a war. This is stalemate. So stalemate has happened. No country is able to score any victory. So there might be a possibility that in the future unthinkable might happen. For example, usage of nuclear weapons. Usage of nuclear weapon. This is something that might emerge. Again, it will be the failure of West and these countries who are recklessly behaving. Now, moving on, moving on. Apart from Russia, Ukraine, then next comes Israel. Israel. Now you see this particular thing. What happened? What happened? Step number one: Hamas. Hamas carried an attack on Israel. Hamas carried an attack on Israel. Till this point, till this particular point, it was justified by Israel to eliminate Hamas and to take back the hostages that have been taken by Hamas. What happened? Israel started attacking Gaza region. Gaza region. But Israel became blind. Israel became blind. They failed to distinguish that actually they are now killing civilians rather than the Hamas. Hamas is still not eliminated. Israel has not got back their hostages that was taken by the Hamas. This is the citizens who are dying. And 90% of the citizens, 90% of citizens within the Gaza region, they are displaced as of today. Okay. Because of this, what happened? Regional powers, they have started challenging Israel. What happened? Houthis, they started attacking the ships in the Red Sea, which are coming from Israel or going from Israel. Then we have seen now Iran has also entered the war. Iran has also entered the war. Okay, so first we see that actually what happened, Israel, they attacked on the consular premise of Iran in Syria, in which Iranian personnel died, and now Iran has also started attacking Israel. So Israel is behaving like a wounded tiger and is firing, killing, or is attacking the countries without any logic, without any sense. Okay, then next, further moving on, if we see USA is still trying to come back from a setback in Afghanistan in 2020. So what happened? US withdrew from Afghanistan. Since then, Taliban has come to the power in Afghanistan, and the USA's prestige that it has created in the world, it is now also getting diminished. It is now also getting diminished. Then further moving on, further moving on. So even China is facing the crisis. So China is facing economic crisis. Okay, economic crisis. So China's exports have went down. Double digit growth of China is going down. China's demography is also going down. So China, it earlier had a super glow of being a near superpower, but now that particular things are also going down. Okay, fine. This is something that has happened. Fine. However, China-Russia-Iran axis is now emerging. China-Russia-Iran axis is now emerging, which might threaten the regional peace. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now, these wars are being fought. These wars are being fought. But world leaders, they are not understand that how these particular wars will impact world economies. Already we have seen that as the threat of Iran-Israel confrontation has begun, fine, stocks market around the world, they have plunged, they have declined. So world economies, they will be impacted, and even the developed countries economy will be impacted. Okay, now further moving on, if you see, this particular situation is different than the earlier wars that have happened. Technology has emerged a kind of an ultimate disruptor. Artificial intelligence, sensors, okay, and many sophisticated weapons that have emerged. What as is happening? Basically, now they are making war more and more deadly. War more and more deadly. Today, the smaller nations are also posing a challenge with AI, with cyber attacks on the big developed country. So this is something that has happened. And nuclear makeover is already under the way. Nuclear makeover is already under the way. And there might be a possibility that nuclear weapons might be resorted in the near future, which will be which will be actually very scary, which will be very concerning. So world leaders, they need to come together and need to question their conduct. They need to understand this particular thing, that whether they need to understand this particular thing, that whether they are following the ethics of war. Is this particular war being fought under the just war premise? Yes or no? Was that particular, is this war so necessary? Such is something that needs to be introspected. Moving on. Next article. Why have private investments dropped? Why have private investments dropped? Now, this article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 3, issues related to Indian economy. Issues related to Indian economy. Sir, is there chance to for the third world war? See, you never know. We wish it should not be there, but seeing the reckless behavior by these particular countries, fine, it has become a question. It has become actually a concern. Now, moving on, why has private investments dropped? Okay. So basically, before going in this particular article, you need to understand the idea of gross fixed capital formation. Gross fixed capital formation. Now understand this particular thing that guys, fixed capital formation refers to money or refers to the expenditure that is being made in capital assets such as land, building, factories, etc. Gross fixed capital formation. Now, basically this gross fixed capital formation, it is a very good indicator of economic growth. Very good indicator of economic growth. Understand this thing, that if there are more industries that are there, it means that it will generate more employment. Okay. So always gross fixed capital formation, that is investments that are happening, assets that are being made in a country, is very important indicator for economic growth. Now, here guys, you see this particular thing, that private investment private investment, they are declining steadily since 2011-12. Okay. Now government has given so many of the nudges to the private sector also, that you please increase your investment, develop more industries, develop more factories, deploy more buildings, machineries, etc. Fine, this is something that is there now. Yes. And also government, what they have done in 2019, they brought down corporate tax from 30% to just 22%. Why? Because if you will reduce the taxes, maybe corporate will have excess disposable money, and that disposable money they will spend in investing in the capital assets. So this was an assumption, and the corporate tax was reduced from 30% to 22%. Okay. So gross fixed capital formation, what it is, refers to the growth in the size of fixed capital in economy, a rough indicator as how much the private sector is willing to invest. Now, basically guys, when we talk about the fixed capital, okay, understand this particular thing, that as a proportion of GDP, how much investments are being done, it is a very important indicator. Now if we see, around 10% of GDP equivalent was being invested. So gross fixed capital formation to GDP ratio, again I'll write here, gross fixed capital formation to GDP, it was 1:10, means gross fixed capital formation was equivalent to 10% of GDP. If GDP is 100 rupees, then 10 rupees, around 10 rupees were being spent in capital asset creation. So basically it was 10% of GDP in 1980. Then it increased, and actually what happened post LPG reforms, it gradually increased and it reached to 27% in 2007-8, which was good. However, post 2011-12, it has started to decline. Post 2011-12, gross fixed capital formation declined and it reached to 19.6% in 2020-21. And now we want that again it should go plus 25%. Okay, it should increase. This is something that we want. Now, why gross fixed capital formation is going down, or in simple terms, why private sector is not investing in capital assets, why they are not building bigger factories, why they are not investing in machinery, why they are not investing in the plants? What is the reason? Some of the economists say that it is because of the low private consumption. It is because of the low private consumption. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that what is the reason that I will start a new factory? Why? I will start a factory because I find that there is a demand in the economy. Only then I will start a new factory, I will start a new industry, I will build a new plant and machinery. Na? If there is no demand in the economy, why I will establish a factory? Okay, fine. So economists say that low private consumption expenditure is there, which is leading to the failure of private investments. Okay, so basically what has happened, these economists, they advise the government that you please put more money in the hands of the people. Because if more money will be there in the hand of people, people will demand more, and they will demand more, private sector will invest more. Okay, this is something that is there. But actually, data does not prove that this is right. Data that does not prove that this is right. Now you see this thing, private final consumption expenditure. This is highest. Now I'm not saying in absolute number it is highest, in proportion to GDP. In proportion to GDP, fine, it was 90% of our GDP in 1950-51. Now, just guys, one thing I want to explain you here so that it becomes easy for you. GDP. Okay. So how GDP of a country is calculated? So GDP, it includes private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure, private final consumption expenditure, government final consumption expenditure plus net exports. Net exports, that is export minus import, you will get the net exports plus investments. Plus investments. You total this all, you'll get the GDP of a country. So private final consumption expenditure, it is an important component of a GDP. And if you see now keep it in your mind. If we go back, fine, to 1950-51, if you go back to 1950-50, private final consumption expenditure, it formed 90% of our GDP in 1950-51. It dropped to 54.7% in 2010-11. So private final consumption expenditure, it has dropped from 1950 to 2010 and 11. This is one thing. But during this time, private investment has peaked. Now you see that it reached to around, if you see, it reached to around 27% 2007-8. So okay, this was a time that private investments were going up, but private final consumption expenditure as a proportion of GDP, it was going down. So this thing is not proved by the data. So there is an inverse relation between the consumption and investment. Now see this particular thing. Guys. Money that is allocated towards saving and now see, just let me explain you. A corporate needs to spend in plant, machinery and industry. They want to expand their plant, they want to expand their machinery, as well as they want to establish new factories. For that they need money. Now how they will get the money? They have to borrow money from the market. Let's say they'll borrow the money from bank. Okay, corporate, they are not all the time having the surplus capital that okay, directly they'll go and uh, they'll establish a factory. They need to borrow the money from the market. Now in market, savings of the people. Now see, banks, from where they are bringing the money? Banks, fine, banks are not making their own money. Banks are getting money from the savings that the people have made in the banks. Now if people will spend all the money, savings will go down. Okay, guys, I hope you're understanding. That if you will consume all of your income, then the savings will go down. So when people will consume less, they'll save more. And when they'll save more, money will be available to the corporate for the investment. So basically, this group of economists say that it is not the case that only you put more money in the hand of the people spend more, and automatically the fixed capital formation will go up. No, that is not very simple. And it has been seen that over the years, the rise in private investment in 1990-2000 is correlated with economic reforms that started in 1991. So economic reforms are more important. Policy certainty is more important. Now understand this thing, guys, that suppose I am a corporate house. When I will spend more, today, let's say even demand is not there, but I think that government is coming out with good policy reforms. So tomorrow, these good policy reforms will enhance the general prosperity in the society. So today, I will spend and I will invest in the capital assets. So push by the government. Okay, so basically push by the government towards the favorable policies. Favorable policy is actually responsible for increasing the investment in capital assets by private sector. This is something that is there. Now, often we see this thing that actually because private sector is not investing, government tries to increase the government investment. But actually this is also negative. Why? Because when government will spend, it will crowd out the money for private investment. When government will borrow the money from market, private sector will not have money. So this is also negative. So at the end, private investments are needed to be increased, and for that particular thing, favorable policy, favorable economic regime is needed. So this is, guys, all about it. And now we'll move to next article. I hope that you have understood it. Okay, now moving to next article. Activity based curriculum drawn up for Anganwadis. This article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, social justice, early childhood care and education. Early childhood care and education. Now, what has happened? What has happened recently? Recently, recently, National Framework of Early Childhood Stimulation 2024 has been prepared. Has been prepared. Now, first of all, who has prepared this particular document and what this document will do? We need to understand these are two things. So, first of all, this particular document, it has been prepared by a committee which had representatives from Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Education, Department of School Education Literacy, National Council for Education Research and Training, NCRT, Institute of Home Economics, that is University of Delhi, and the civil societies. So multiple organizations, multiple ministries, civil societies, they have come together and they have prepared this. They have prepared this National Framework for Early Childhood Stimulation 2024. Now, what this particular framework contains? Now, understand this particular thing, guys. That the moment a child is born, neural connections start to form. Neural connections start to form, which is very much important in cognition, intelligence, and everything in a child. Now it has been said that since the birth, from the birth till 3 years of age, from birth till 3 years of age, there are certain activities that are needed to be done with a child. By that, child's cognitive abilities improve, a child's retention, child's learning, fine, all these things improve. So basically what has happened, this national framework for early childhood education, what it lays, what it provides, month by month activities that are to be conducted by the parents, by Anganwadi staff, by Asha workers, with a child from birth to the age of 3. Now, obviously, when a child will be born, immediately child will not go to an Anganwadi center, will not go to a crèche, will not go to a school. So, initially, parents have to do certain activities with a child. What type of activities for what age is to be done? All that thing has been provided in this particular document. It has been provided in this particular document. The name or the title of this particular document is Nav Chetna. Nav Chetna. So, it is an activity based curriculum. Fine, and it has been prepared in the line with the National Education Policy 2020. Fine. Now, 14 lakh Anganwadi, they will also be given the training, because in early childhood care, they have been given an important role. So they will also be given the training as how to make it operationalize. Now, this particular curriculum, it involves talking, playing, moving, listening to music, sounds, stimulation of all the 5 senses that you have: sight, touch, okay, fine, um, developing early language, fine, emergent literacy, numeracy skills. All these things will be focused in this particular curriculum. Now, why it is important? Because, guys, the brain development, maximum of brain development happens in the first 3 years. So maximum brain development happens in these first 3 years. And therefore, if we utilize this particular time, then it can lead to very good results, very good result. Now, in this document, there are 36 type of activities that have been suggested for children between 0 to 36. And all these activities, they don't utilize some special objects. Just the household items such as cups, bottles, leftover pieces of fabric, they can be used to teach children as how to respond. Okay, now these actives involve, what are these activities? These activities involve reaching out for objects, making sounds, spinning bangles, putting the objects in and out of a jar. All these particular things have been provided. Fine. After a year, encourage child to feed themselves, explore the house, take them to the kitchen. At the age of 18, children will be encouraged to scribble down with a color crayon. After around 24 months, children are recommended to do some shoe sorting, matching of the shoes. Fine. This is something that has been suggested. So guys, what this is helping? This is helping in the early childhood care and early childhood education. Early cognitive skills will be enhanced. Early cognitive skills will be enhanced by these particular activities. Now you can use these as an examples as the initiatives taken by government. Initiatives taken by government to improve the early childhood care. Earlier guys, if you are following regularly, we have seen that National Curriculum Framework for School Education was released. Okay, if you have followed, you might be knowing about it also. And now this special module is for early childhood care and education. Moving on. Next, we have this article, Nestle baby food salts in India have higher sugar content. Now, this particular article, guys, is important with respect to GS paper number 2 and GS paper number 3, nutrition, social justice, social justice. Also, this particular article is important with respect to GS paper number 4, GS paper number 4, corporate governance, corporate governance, corporate ethics, corporate ethics. Now, how corporate ethics, guys, exactly on the same theme. There was a case study that was also asked in UPSC GS4 case study section. So the case study was this, that there is a food company which is selling the products in India as well as abroad, but the food products that are being sold in India, they are of inferior quality. They are of inferior quality, or relatively they are not that much healthy compared to what they are selling abroad. So recently what has happened, recently a particular study has been conducted by Switzerland's NGO Public Eye and by the International Baby Food Action Network. Now, they have found that the Nestlé's baby food products that are being sold in India, as well as the ones that are sold in Africa, Latin America, particularly developing and underdeveloped regions, the food that is being sold, it has higher sugar content in comparison to the same products that are being sold in European market. So higher sugar content is there. So basically Cerelac, I am sure that you might have heard the name of Cerelac. So 15 Cerelac products, fine, for the 6-month-old babies, they were tested for sugar. Now it was found that the packets that are being sold in UK and Germany, they did not had any sugar. They don't had any sugar. They were without any added sugar. But the ones which are being sold in India and the ones which are being sold in Africa or in the other parts of Asia, they have added sugar. Around 2.7 grams of added sugar per serving was there in India. Fine. The ones sold in Ethiopia, Thailand, they actually had 6 grams of sugar. Now, WHO, World Health Organization, it recommends that added sugar should not be there in the foods. Added sugar should not be there in the foods. Fine. Why? Now it has been said that now you see this particular thing, that here we have the best breast feeding promotion network of India. They say that children below the age of 2, they should not be given either sugar or salt in their diet. It predisposes them towards a non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases. Also, they develop the food specific cravings, food specific addictions. They develop if before the age of 2 they are given high sugar and high salt. Added sugar and salt should not be there. Fine. WHO, what they have said? They have said that the introduction of added sugar in the baby food can contribute to the development of addictive eating habits and preference for sweet taste from an early age. So neither WHO recommends added sugar nor the breastfeeding promotion network of India suggests the added sugar. But Nestle products which are being sold in India, they have this particular added sugar. Now, when we talk about, guys, the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, FSSAI, it regulates the manufacturing, storage, distribution, sale. Fine. Okay, this is something that is there, and they say that we are looking in this particular finding. But Nestle in their defense has said this particular thing, that actually we are in the permissible limit. Depending on the country to country, they have a different nutritional requirement. And in India, they say that basically certain amount of sugar is allowed, and we are in that particular range. We are in that particular range. Okay, so this is something that is happening. Now, what it shows. Now see, Nestle's baby food, Cerelac. Its retail sale is around 1 billion US dollar, and highest sale comes from the low and middle income countries. Okay, 40% of sales is coming just from Brazil and India. So basically this thing shows the double standards of such corporates, double standards of such corporate, and it calls in the need for corporate ethics. Okay, so this is guys all about it. And here we have one more article. India must invest more in education health to tap demographic dividend, IMF. Now, what is the meaning of this particular word, demographic dividend? Demographic dividend, what it means? So, demography means related to population. Population. Dividend means benefit. Dividend means benefit. So, demographic dividend means a peculiar benefit, a peculiar benefit or an advantage that a nation will get because of their favorable population, because of the favorable population. Now, what is a favorable population? Young population, population that is not dependent, it is a favorable population. Okay, now if we will have more and more young people, these young people will contribute in economy. Because they will contribute in economy, our GDP will go up. Fine, fine, our GDP will go up. As they are working, they'll get money. The money they'll spend in demand of goods and services. As aggregate demand will go, aggregate supply will go up. Aggregate supply, if it will go up, more industries will be developed. All these particular things will happen. So whenever in a country young population increases, that country achieves the demographic dividend. China in the past, fine, almost every European country in the past have taken the advantage of demographic dividend. Now India, if has to take demographic dividend, has to invest in education, has to invest in health. Now you see this particular thing. Today, if we talk about, according to UNFPA, what is the average age of India? It stands at 28. So means we are an exceptionally young country. But if you want to take the benefit of such demographic dividend, you need to invest in education and health. If people are not educated, if people are not skilled, obviously they will become not a demographic dividend, but they will become a demographic disaster. They'll become a demographic disaster. So ensure that the people are educated, ensure people are healthy. Okay, and now this particular same thing has been provided by the IMF also. India should focus on investing heavily in education and health to ensure its young population. Okay, this is something that has been provided. Now, when we talk about India, 15 million people are being added to labor force every year. 15 billion people had are being added to the labor force every year. But if these people are not educated and not healthy, they cannot contribute rightly in economy. Rightly in economy. Fine. 65% of Indians are under the age of 35. Okay. So we have huge potential. We have huge potential. Moreover, guys, now if you see, basically AI, artificial intelligence, disruptive technologies are coming. So basically ensure the labor force also understands these disruptive technologies. Okay. Now, IMF also has projected 6.8% growth rate for economy in financial year 25. Okay. Now, basically for achieving higher growth rate, what we need to do? We need to invest more and more in our demographic dividend. Okay. We need to invest, we need to make public investment, private investment, public investment in health infrastructure, education. This is something that is going to support the economy. So this is guys all about it. And with this, we come to an end to the today's session. I hope guys that you have understood it, and I hope that you have liked this particular session. That is all about it for today. Tomorrow we are going to take it up. Till then, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.